welcome back to the Smart Box. Today we will be seeing the lecture for class 8, that is science, and this is our first chapter going on, that is living world and classification of microbes. Okay, so we will be studying about the living world. Okay, if I ask you what is living world, you will be telling that animals are in the living world, plants, okay, and human beings, all these are in the living world, but you won't say anything like fungus. Okay, fungus, viruses, the coronavirus which is going on right now, because of that we are facing too much of problems, but these all things are also called living world. Okay, so you should know that. Okay, so there was a very difficulty in how to classify these things. Okay, animals, plants, human beings, fungus, viruses, all this, how can we classify it? Therefore we have made a classification. Some scientists have made a classification for that. So we will be studying that in this chapter. Okay, so this is our chapter, this is our page 1 of our chapter. The chapter's name is again living world and classification of microbes. Okay, so first of all we will be watching this biodiversity and need of classification. What do you mean by diversity? The word diversity means change. Okay, whatever there is a change in diversity, like we are in the water. Okay, if we live in water, the fishes live in water, so their diversity is different. Okay, if someone is living on land, animals living on land, their diversity is different. Okay, the animals living in snowy regions, their diversity is different. Okay, so these all is known as diversity. Diversity means change. So biodiversity means that bio means in animals, in fungus, there are many diversities. There are many plants, there are many animals, there are many human beings, there are many other species which are living, so we need to classify them. Okay, last year we have learned that all the living organisms on the earth have adapted according to the geographic regions. Okay, this was the first chapter in our 7th standard, that adaptation means that how they are adapting according to the environment. So last year we have studied about it, about food ingestion and defense. Okay, according to their खतरे के हिसाब से they defend themselves according to the region they ingest food, that is eat foods. Okay, this all we have studied last year. While adapting, many differences are observed in the organism of same species too. Okay, while adapting there are many differences. Okay, if we talk about cow, okay, if we talk about cow, the cow in India is different and the cow in US or Canada is different, because in Canada their atmosphere is very different from India. Therefore the living species staying over here and living species staying in Canada are same, both are cows, but their way of living is different. Okay, according to 211 census. Okay, today it is 2021. So ये जो census है, that is 10 years पुराना. Okay, 10 years old. So in 2011 there were around 87 million species of living organism are found on the earth, including land and sea. So definitely it's been a 10 years, so the number is already been increased. 87 से ज़्यादा हो गए होंगे. Okay, to study such a vast number, it was essential to divide them into groups. So groups and subgroups were created considering the similarities and differences among the living organisms. Okay, according to how they eat, what they eat, how they stay, where they stay, how much they live, how much years they can live, according to that all things classification, groups and subgroups were made. Okay, this process of dividing living organism into groups and subgroup is called as biological classification. So this is the definition of biological classification which you have to write in your book as notes. This is the first definition that you will be writing. Okay, next will be Next is this chart. This chart is very important. You have to draw it in your notebook and you have to learn it because it is very important. Okay, so first of all the living organisms are firstly divided into two groups. First is prokaryotes and second one is eukaryotes. Now what is prokaryotes, I will be telling y'all. So you can write it, or you can also it's better that you write it what is prokaryote. Okay, so prokaryote is what, any organism that lacks the distinct of nucleus and other organelles. Okay, if there is an organism which doesn't have any nucleus, okay, इसका न्यूक्लियस नहीं होता है, इट इज़ नॉट वेल डिफाइंड न्यूक्लियस. ओके, सो दैट एनिमल और दैट लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म इज कॉल्ड एज प्रोकैरियोट्स. एंड यूकैरियोट मीन्स कि इसका न्यूक्लियस होता है, ऑल द ऑर्गेनल्स आर वेल डिफाइंड एंड इट वर्क्स वेरी nicely. Okay, so that animals are, or that living beings are known as eukaryotes, and the living organism that do not have well defined nucleus are known as prokaryotes. Okay, so in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, prokaryotes is unicellular. What do you mean by unicellular? Unicellular means only one cell. They have only one cell. They are not multicellular like we human beings are made up of many million of the cells, but these types of living organisms are only made up of one cell. Therefore they are known as what? Unicellular. Okay, in this only there is one kingdom which we have to remember, that is kingdom Monera. How it is pronounced as? Kingdom Monera. Monera is the only kingdom which comes in prokaryote. It is a small, because it is unicellular, therefore it is small. Now the second part is eukaryotes. Now eukaryotes, as I told, that eukaryotes are have well defined nucleus and all the organelles in the cell are very well defined. Okay, so there are two types of eukaryotes. There are also unicellular and there are multicellular. Now again, unicellular means single cell and multicellular means many cell. Okay, they have many cell. For example, we ourselves, that is our human beings are made up of many of the cells. Therefore human beings are said to be multicellular organism, and other will be called as unicellular organism. So again, in unicellular eukaryotes, unicellular, there is only one kingdom, that is known as kingdom Protista. Okay, the name is what? Kingdom Protista. Okay, now next, multicellular will be having three kingdoms which are very basic. The first one is fungi. Okay, we read it as fungi, not fungi. Many of the students read it as fungi. That is not fungi, that is fungi. The spelling is Fungi, that is read as fungi. Okay, then fungi has what is the difference between fungi, Plantae and Animalia? The cell wall is present but organism can't perform photosynthesis. Now what is photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which the plants are making their food. Okay, with the help of the sun rays, plant make their own food. So in kingdom fungi, the cell wall is present but the fungus cannot produce its own food. It has to be depend on other things to eat. Okay, so this is the difference between fungi and Plantae. Okay, so what is the fourth kingdom? Fourth kingdom is Plantae. Now cell wall presents and organisms can perform photosynthesis. Okay, here also cell wall is present, here also cell wall is present, but they cannot produce their own food, and now here they can produce their own food. So you all know that every plant produces their own food with the help of photosynthesis. So this is very important. Okay, now fifth one is kingdom kingdom Animalia. What do you mean by Animalia? In Animalia, every animal, even human beings come in animal, because human being is a social animal. If you all know, you have to also write it down that human being is also a animal, but human being is a social animal which lives in a society. Not every animal lives in a society, therefore human being is known as Human being is known as a social animal, and therefore it comes in kingdom Animalia. No cell wall. Okay, so our cell do not have any cell wall. Okay, so you have to draw this diagram in your book and also learn it by heart. Draw it like this only, you don't have to color it. If you want you can, but if you are not coloring it, it's okay. Okay, now next, this is very important. Okay, now there's a scientist known as Whitaker. You have to learn this spelling, that is Whitaker. He was a scientist. Okay, for this classification, Whitaker considered following criteria. Okay, so who was the scientist who did all these things? All these things were done by Whitaker. All the classification, all the kingdoms that we studied right now was classified by this scientist named as Whitaker. Okay, now what it is written, for this classification Whitaker consider following criteria. What was the criteria made by him, so that he can what he can tell us that which things should be in which kingdom. So first one is complexity of the cell structure. Now we have seen that there were two living organisms and there were two branches made. First was prokaryote and other one was eukaryote. Okay, so now what do you mean by prokaryotes? Again, prokaryotes do not have a well defined nucleus, and its cell wall is also absent, and all the organelles are very bad in condition, that are known as eukaryotes. And what is prokaryotes, and what is eukaryote? In eukaryote the nucleus is very good, all the organelles are very good, so that is known as eukaryote. This was the first criteria. Next one was complexity of organisms. Now what do you mean by complexity of organism? That if the organism is unicellular or multicellular. Now again, what do you mean by unicellular? Unicellular means that it has only one cell. Okay, unicellular, if you all want, then you can all write it, that unicellular means one cell. Okay, it has only one cell. And what do you mean by multicellular? Multicellular means that it has many cell. Okay, more than one cell or many cells, you can tell. Okay, third one is mode of nutrition. Now what do you mean by nutrition? Nutrition का मतलब होता है खाना पीना. Okay, whatever you eat, whatever you cook, or anything that is made by you for eating, that is known as what? Nutrition. So it the third criteria was depending upon the nutrition. Okay, now what is nutrition? सबसे पहले there is plants. Plants are what? Autotrophic. Okay, now what do you mean by this word autotrophic? You have to write it in your book, that autotrophic means जो अपना खाना खुद बनाते हैं. They make their own food. They make their own food. Okay, so plants make their own food, so the plants are known as what? Autotrophic. And the process by which they made their food is called as photosynthetic. Okay, next, fungi. Fungi are saprophytic. Now what do you mean by saprophytic? Autotrophic means कि वो खाना अपना खुद बनाते हैं, but saprophytic means that they do not cook their own food, they do not make their own food, they depend upon others for their food. They depend upon others for their food. Okay, that is known as what? Saprophytic. Now what is their mode of nutrition? Absorption from dead organisms. So the fungus always, you can see that if you you can do this experiment if you all want, that you can take a piece of bread and keep it in your tiffin box for 2 to 3 days. Okay, after 2 to 3 days you all will see that on the bread there is a white layer. That white layer is known as what? Fungus. So when the all the nutrition in the bread becomes dead, then there is a fungus on it. Okay, so the fungus always live on the dead animals. Now next, animals. Animals are heterotrophic and ingestive. Now what do you mean by heterotrophic? Heterotrophic means they depend on other animals for their food. They hunt them and they eat them, are known as what? Heterotrophic. Okay, so I hope you all now you all know What is the meaning of autotrophic, saprophyte and heterotrophic? All these words you should be knowing. For pronouncing this word you have to daily read these words. If you daily read these words तो आपको आदत हो जाएगी पढ़ने की, and then only you can write the answers or learn the answers, question answers. Okay, if you are not able to pronounce it, then you won't be able to learn the answers I am telling you. Okay, so the first criteria was lifestyle. Okay, so plants are what? Producer. Now what do you mean by producer? We are not talking about any film producer. Producer means that they produce food. Okay, so if you all see around that whatever vegetables we eat, okay, whatever vegetables we eat are grown up in the plant. Okay, so plant produces the fruit, produces the vegetable, produces the flowers, and then we eat. Okay, so the plants are always known as what? Producer. Next are animals. Animals like us or our goats or our cow or our buffalo, they eat the other plants. Okay, so plants, animals are what? Consumer. Consumer means whoever takes. Okay, plant grows and animals take. Okay, so plant are what? Producers, and animals are what? Consumers. Next is fungi. Fungi are decomposer. Now what do you mean by decomposer? Decomposer means, decompose means sadana. In इंग्लिश, इन हिंदी वी कैन से दैट सड़ाना, कोई बॉडी को हम क्या कर रहे हैं? सड़ा रहे, दैट इज नोन एज डीकम्पोजिंग. ओके, सो द फंगस ऑलवेज डीकम्पोजेज द डेड बॉडीज. द डेड बॉडी, if some animal is dead, we can see that it is getting decay हो रहा है, वो बार बार हम देख सकते हैं. that is that decaying is because of this fungus. Therefore the fungus are known as decomposers. Okay, now the fifth criteria was phylogenetic relationship. You have to learn these words. The fifth word is phylogenetic. Phylogenetic relationship means prokaryote to eukaryote, unicellular to multicellular. There are two relationship. One is prokaryote to eukaryote and other one is unicellular to multicellular. So these were the 5 criteria which was undertaken by Whitaker to classify these all things. Okay, so I hope you all understood till now. Now you have, so I hope आप सबको बहुत ही अच्छा लगा होगा ये वीडियो. अगर आपको कुछ भी डाउट है तो आप नीचे कमेंट कर सकते हैं. एंड डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू सब्सक्राइब आवर चैनल. लाइक करिए अपने फ्रेंड्स के साथ, शेयर करिए इस वीडियो को. एंड थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग द स्मार्ट बॉक्स.